I would, but I don't want to
go right ahead,
step on your
Jeremy,
toe.
because you were paying attention to all the words, Jeremy, and I'm worried I'm going to forget them.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Create Invent podcast, where we discussed, well, all kinds of things in creativity, invention, and in this case, we're going to be discussing electronic music with somebody who has several jobs in electronic music, somebody who's, you might call him an electronic music aficionado / journalist / producer, all kinds of stuff, which is Chris / Midierror. Chris, how are you doing today?
Yeah, hey guys. Very well, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for letting me be part of this. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Yeah, well, we're honored you could join us. And you know, Chris, in addition to all of his MIDI duties, he's actually my editor at Tindie, so that's kind of neat to be able to talk to you. I think kind of how you, I believe how you stepped in there was you were doing kind of some, I guess, reporting on some of the DIY music stuff there, which is a huge scene on Tindie as far as that goes.
Yeah, I really should have got my Tindie wares to show off here, shouldn't I, beforehand? But yeah, I was a seller on Tindie, and a friend of mine was making some really revolutionary stuff, a guy called Jason Hotchkiss, and he was one of the biggest sellers on Tindie. And Jasmine, who is my boss and our boss, came to Brighton, where I live. And I think, yeah, there was a show. I can't remember what show was on, but she came down and I met her in person. And yeah, that was where she asked me if I wanted to write some articles for Tindie. And that was like maybe 7 years ago, something like that. And over the years, I've kind of moved up and I'm now the editor. And we have a very talented selection of writers, including yourself, Jeremy.
Well, thank you very, very much.
Jeremy, I had no idea you were a talented writer. That's exciting.
Well, that's what some people say, I guess. It's interesting because, you know, as you write, you know, presumably you're improving, but you see more mistakes. So I guess it seems like you're always, it's hard to label yourself as that, but maybe other people do sometimes.
Yeah, you certainly are. But I know that exact feeling myself. You know, I'm a writer too, as well as being an editor. So it is, you do sometimes question your ability when you've been doing it so long, but I think that's a good thing, and it means that you're kind of always on the path to learn and like to get better at what you're doing.
I get excited when I send a blog post to my editor for proofreading, and she tells me I make no mistakes, like no, grammatical.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm like, finally, after years of mistakes, I got one right.
I'll have to let you know when that happens.
Yeah.
Well, besides Tindie, though, you do a lot of different things. You do have you work at a company that does audio processing with GPUs, which I feel like this is a strange thing because GPU is graphics processing unit, right?
It's super exciting. Yeah, it's something that I've only started doing in the last few months. But it's a very revolutionary idea. So when you're making music on your computer, you have a GPU, which is basically doing nothing. It's almost redundant when you're using Ableton or you're using Cubase or any of the other DAWs. So this is a patented technology which has been designed to use the unbelievable power of the GPUs to be able to process audio. And yeah, it's an amazing team that I'm part of. It's a super exciting thing to be involved in, and we're on the early days of this journey of the company. And yeah, it's very exciting.
And what is it? You know, I'm familiar with video production to some extent, but maybe we should step back in the first place. I mean, you mentioned a DAW, which is a digital audio workstation. Is that correct?
Yeah, the software that you'd use to make a track in. Yeah.
Okay. And does the GPU speed it up as you're producing stuff, or is it something that kind of like you hit a button and it says it cranks on it for a while and does its thing, or is it?
Well, traditionally the CPU is what's processing all of your audio within a computer when you're making music, and the GPU is, as I said, kind of sat there redundant. And so what our team have implemented is a way to use the processing power of the GPU to do any of the stuff that the CPU might normally do. And because I'm sure you're aware of like how powerful and how well tuned GPUs are, you know, people have been using them to mine Bitcoins for many years. Yeah, it's a way of basically offloading any processing away from the CPU into the GPU which is infinitely more powerful. And GPUs have got 1 million times faster in, I think, 10 years. I think it's 1 million times faster. I think that's correct. So there's a huge amount of processing power.
Oh, you're saying literally 1 million times?
Yeah, in 10 years. So there's a huge amount of processing power which isn't used when we're making music. And then what we're doing enables us to do a ton of amazing things with audio, whether it's using AI to process audio live, whether it's networked processing, for example, using a mobile phone, which is connected to your computer at home, which has a GPU on it. You can have unbelievable processing on the move. We're official partners with NVIDIA, so NVIDIA are completely on board. AMD have very recently stepped on board as well. And we're talking to like the biggest companies in the world, basically. It's a really exciting thing to be part of.
That's cool. And that's Sonic State? Is that the name of that company?
No, that's GPU Audio. So
GPU. And Sonic State is one of your other jobs, correct?
That's true, yeah. Sonic State is a music tech channel from Britain, and a kind of synth review channel, which is like one of the most respected in Britain. And again, working with an amazing team there, super talented people, and I'm literally like humbled to be part of that team. I've been a fan of Sonic State for like 15 to 20 years. I've been watching it in my bedroom like everyone else. And now awesome. I'm part of the team reviewing synthesizers. We just went to the NAMM show in the US.
That's right, because you were just in California, correct? For that show?
I've just had absolutely, yeah. So we had like 4 days of work in California, and then I did 3 weeks of traveling after that, which was spectacular. Just an amazing trip. Prior to that, we were at Super Booth in Berlin. So yeah, it's been a good month. June's been a great month this year.
Nice. Well, what's the coolest thing you saw when you were in the US? What do you think was neat in your travels?
You mean in terms of like music production or just in general? Well,
just either one really, whichever. How about music production and in general? What would you say?
Yeah, good question. Well, I really like, this isn't really a music tech thing, but I really liked a product that enabled disabled people to hold musical instruments. Very simple product. Which just blew my mind a little bit. It was on the last day that I shot that video, and it kind of brought a tear to my eye what they were doing, because everyone's there, all the big companies. You've got Rhodes, you've got Oberheim, you've got Pioneer, it's huge. Like I cannot put into words how big NAMM is, the NAMM show. It's unbelievable. It takes 45 minutes.
What does NAMM stand for?
I don't know. What does NAMM stand for? National Association of Music, something. Yeah, I don't know what it stands for.
Good enough. It's a transcended acronym.
Yeah, it has. It's like the holy grail of music conferences. But yeah, it takes basically 45 minutes to walk from one end of the show to the other, and probably half an hour depth walking through it. So it's massive. But yeah, the thing that really stood out for me amongst the new Oberheim synth, the OBX-B, was this very small stand that had this product to help disabled people, elderly and young people, hold musical instruments and microphones and things like that.
Wow. What kind of instrument, like a just saxophone, a guitar? What kind of instruments are we talking? Or was it just a generalized tool?
Yeah, it's like a generalized tool. I do actually have them in the room here. Shall I get them and show you?
Yeah, we'd love to see them. And those listening, we'll try to describe it as best we can.
So it's a thing called Easy Hold.
Easy Hold, okay.
Is this one of your products, Jeremy?
It's kind of like...
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yes,
no, that's just Easy Fan. If people need a fan, they know an easy way to get it.
Yeah, you do make some great products, Jeremy.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like so I've got my water bottle here. It's like a rubber device that it will go through something, Like this bottle's too big to really demo it, but I haven't got anything else. So yeah, they're just kind
It's
of
kind of like a
rubber.
handle.
Yeah, it's a handle, so you could put like a microphone through it, and then if you're not very dexterous, you can just hold it.
Like
Yes,
this, like
as
you would hold your
Pat's
mug.
demonstrating there.
Like if you
so
wrap
it's
your
just like
hands
a
around a
handle.
mug with your fingers through the thing.
So it's basically
Exactly.
a portable plastic handle that you can strap onto, say, a microphone or a whatever else, whatever you might find convenient. Is that kind of the
Absolutely,
idea behind that?
Yeah, a drumstick, a set of maracas, all kind a shaker, all kinds of musical instruments that might be difficult to hold, and they do all kinds of like shapes and sizes for them for different things.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
yeah, for me, that was just the best thing at the NAMM show, and I'm sure that's not what people would expect, but yeah.
No,
Seems very
that's
cool.
great. I feel like too, even, I feel like that could have all kinds of uses beyond, enablement, if that's the right word. Guess,
Absolutely, yeah. If I just get out their promo material, they do show various different things that it can be used with.
Okay, yeah, you got a fork and a superhero model. That's paintbrush.
Yeah.
When
Why
I
not?
edit the episode, I'll find
Yeah,
a picture, a high quality. Picture.
Excellent. Yeah, this is a bit crushed. This has been in my bag for 3 weeks, so yeah, that's why it's like that. But
Nice.
yeah, just an amazing company, and I was going to say something else about them, but I've forgotten.
Yeah, well, that's it. I feel like it's like you do something simple, but you do it well, and that can be a good thing. I think.
Absolutely. I've remembered what I was going to say. If I
Sure.
can, they want to petition to have like a area of NAMM which is dedicated to devices like this. So they want to have accessibility section to NAMM. They are the first accessibility product that's ever been at NAMM. This show's been running for absolutely years, and they are the first accessibility product ever at NAMM. So she is. The company is a small family company, and they are going to petition to NAMM to have like a disability accessibility area, which I'm all for. I just think that's an amazing idea.
Very cool.
Yeah, well, for sure. That's pretty neat. All right. Well, that's the best thing you saw. That's coolest thing you saw at NAMM. What about America? What was the coolest thing in America, in your opinion?
Wow, so many great things. I mean, the food was pretty amazing. I loved like the diners. Just going to the diners it filled me with immense joy. I didn't really expect it to. The people were so nice. People are friendly and open. That was a thing that you don't always. I don't know. In Britain, we're quite kind of uptight and a little bit kind of shy and introverted. And I just really love how approachable American people are. I think the number one thing for me, though, looking at everything I did, was Delores Park in San Francisco, which is like one of the main parks in San Francisco, and it just has the most stunning backdrop of any park I've ever seen in my whole life. And
Really?
San Francisco is a great city. I did post it on my Twitter feed. When I came back, I posted a picture from Delores Park. Like, it's just beautiful. And on a Friday night and a Saturday night, it's just full of people having a great time. And you can see like the full cityscape from this park. It's just the stretch of vision you can see is just stunning.
That sounds awesome. And your Twitter account is @MIDI_error, I believe. Is that correct?
That is correct. My old one got stolen by somebody. Midierror with no underscore got stolen.
Oh, because we wondered about that because I looked it up earlier. I was trying to make sure I had you, and then I was like, I don't think this is him. And then anyway, so that's why I knew there was an underscore.
Yeah, what I did was I deactivated my account, and then like literally a day later somebody had it. So they didn't like nick it off me. I deactivated it and then kind of wanted it back. And it's just one of those life lessons of like, if you really want something, don't let it go.
Well, that's a good.
I just looked up
that's a good
the
philosophy
photograph
in many.
that you were talking about, and when you were describing it, in my mind, for some reason, I was picturing the park being down low and looking up at the city.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the other way around. The park is up high, looking down into the city.
Yeah,
The-
yeah, it's stunning.
It's very nice.
Yeah, it's a beautiful. San Francisco is a beautiful city, and there's lots of vantage points all around it. Golden Gate Park is this huge park that would take you 2 hours to walk from one end to the other, and yeah, there's vistas all around the city, and it's an amazing place. Really, really cool.
Nice. I've never been there, but I'll have to go sometime. Sounds awesome.
Do go. Yeah.
Yeah. But now you're back home in the Brighton area in the UK. Just getting back kind of our subject. How do you even define electronic music? When would you say that started anyway?
I guess I would define electronic music as music that's been made with synthesizers, drum machines, samplers, and the basis of it being electronic. I mean, you could still have electronic music with guitars in it. I think that's perfectly acceptable and a very good thing. But yeah, for me, electronic music would be fundamentally with synths and drum machines. And one could argue that electronic music is all music nowadays because it's all running through computers. It's all getting digitized in some way. Where they're not really using reel-to-reel stuff. That's all analog in the studios, live recording. But yeah, for me, fundamentally, I think just. That's it really, and there's just such a range of electronic music nowadays, and it's huge, it's massive.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you yourself, I mean, you've been dabbling in electronic music. I'd have for a long time. I'd have to. Well, I know you have, but
yeah, well, it has to be Jean-Michel Jarre. I had a cassette of Jean-Michel Jarre, Images, which was like a compilation at the time in the early 80s. And I just remember listening to that in the car and just being taken to like space, basically, just being taken to another world, these beautiful melodic landscapes of like mystery and exploration. And they just filled me with a sense of wonder. And that's easily my main influence. And then sort of I remember hearing records like Laurie Anderson's Oh Superman, which is like a vocoded track, and it's quite a sinister sound. So a vocoder is when you run a synthesizer in unison with the human voice, and they modulate each other, so you get like a robot-y sort of kind of sound. And it genuinely scared me. That record genuinely scared me when I was like a kid. I didn't know what to make of it, and it still makes me feel uneasy, but I kind of liked that I wasn't too sure about it.
Yeah. You know what's funny is I saw I remember the Dalek from Doctor Who. Somehow I must have seen that like when I was too young or something. But that still scares me to this day. Just the robotic noise and the plunger or whatever. And I don't know. I've seen many scarier things than that. It's kind of silly, I guess, looking at it now. But it's still.
Yeah, I get it though. I completely get that, man, because it's like such an inhuman thing. It's such a weird chunky object, and even the way they move is a bit like wonky, isn't it? They're a bit sort of eerie in that sense. But yeah, it uses a ring modulator. I think there is actually a circuit you can find to replicate that exact Dalek voice, although you might not want to.
Oh man,
there are
that sounds
you
awesome.
might not want to, but now you might have to.
Have nightmares out there. That's right.
Well, perhaps you could make one, Pat. You could do one and freak Jeremy out during podcasts.
To not show it to my kids before bedtime or whatever. So that got you kind of down this path of doing it. Do you feel like now you're involved in production and in all aspects of it, you might say. Do you think this type of music, electronic music, is more of a participatory than many forms? I mean, it seems like if you like electronic music, a lot of people are kind of, I should make some myself, or I should make this like the Atari Punk synth or whatever. It seems like people like to get into it on some level. You think that's, I don't know. You think you could be an electronic music fan without having some interest in making some of it? That's an unfair question, but
that's a good question. No, that's a good question, because I think it's so accessible now. It's so unbelievably accessible to make electronic music. If you have an iPad, if you have a mobile phone, whatever it is, you can basically make music on now. So like the barriers to entry in making it are just incredible. So Yeah, I think you're 100% right. I think that anyone who gets really passionate about electronic music, they are just going to want to eventually, at some point, make it. Like, I know friends who've been in their kind of late 30s and decided I actually want to make music, and they end up making great electronic music because they've been a fan. They've listened for so many years. They have this built-in archive of sound, and they know what they want. And it's great. And I mean, even today, I was talking to a YouTuber who's a really young YouTuber, and he's making beats online, and he's sort of, on the rise. And it's just amazing to see, the people coming through making amazing music.
Well, how long did it take you to go from when you heard that first electronic music track to saying, "Oh, I want to do this," and then actually making it yourself? What was the progress there?
I would say it was it's a good question, maybe 10 or so years from like listening to early electronic stuff. And I also would like to include the Doctor Who theme, which was an amazing piece of electronic music, originally composed by Delia Derbyshire, and later Orbital remixed it, and they just basically smashed that remix out of the park. It was like the greatest remix of all time. If you haven't heard the Doctor Who remix that Orbital did, listen to it. It's absolutely stunning. I think it was the free CDs that were on like computer music magazines, on
Really?
like Future Music and Computer Music. Yeah, they would give away like a free DAW or like a sequencing program. And I had a friend that was also into it, and he'd kind of pass over a disc and go, listen, try this, see what you think of it. Or he'd play me his music and I'd be like, yeah, that sounds amazing. And I guess in those early days I was, just completely freeform, making weird stuff,
Okay.
just learning how to sequence and how filtering works, how effects work. And doing some really way out remixes.
Yeah, very cool. Now, I mean, today, I don't exactly know how old you are, but let's just assume this is a decade or two later today. What do you think people are, I guess, starting out with? I mean, as far as hardware-wise, obviously people mix it on computers or phones. Is there anything, like an Arduino or Raspberry Pi, or what kind of equipment do you think people are taking advantage of now?
I think mainly it is software that people are picking up for the first time, for sure. But often if people's friends have got drum machines or a synth, it kind of sparks something in people to make that electronic music. But in terms of like Arduinos, Raspberry Pis, Teensies, there are so many amazing ways to make electronic music using those devices. You do have to kind of learn programming for them. So I'd say that, all that kind of stuff is maybe a couple of stages after your first endeavors with making music. But there's so much around, even on the iPad, there's amazing drum machines on iPads.
Oh, that's right. Because what was the name of it? Korg. I got a Korg K oscillator, the app for the iPad. That was kind of fun to play around with, and now my kids play around with it. So it's interesting. I don't know, to see the progression, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing the processing power that we have on those things compared to what was available even like 25 years ago. It just wasn't possible in software form. Like the first soft synths were coming out, I think, like the early 90s. So
Sure.
Software's the king now. And I used to be really, really strict about being like a hardware junkie, and like it has to be hardware, and hardware. You just know the sound of hardware. Just you should kind of be one of those people. But now I just think whatever works for you, that's what you should use. And I've got no problems with taking a laptop with loads of samples and recordings on it, and making just as good a music as I would in hardware. Not to say that that's good music,
Right.
but just as good.
Yeah, for sure. I guess it just makes me think of one of your old podcasts. So maybe we could talk a little more about that later. But you were talking about some of the older video games, how they had to do things that seem crazy today, like to save memory, like, playing a clip backwards, or, they had this much space for the audio clips. So they had to, some real interesting technical challenges, but it's
definitely,
I don't know. A part of me thinks that, oh, that's really cool. It's kind of a shame that doesn't exist anymore. But at the same time, it's like, what we have today allows people to make so much more stuff that would have been nearly impossible even 20 years ago.
Definitely. Yeah, I had the pleasure of speaking to Tim Wright, who was the composer for the Wipeout soundtrack. And he's been making music since, what was the first game he worked on? But he worked on games in definitely the early 90s. And he was talking about compressing sound files, downsampling them, how low the sample rate had to be, but also repurposing them. Yeah, that might be one of the things that you recall is repurposing a sample that could either be like a high sound, and then you can pitch it down, and it can kind of be like a kick drum. So you would repurpose what they call in the kind of 3D modeling world as like an asset. You could repurpose that asset and use it in different ways. John Grant was also the other interview where we spoke about video games and how somehow they managed to meld together the visuals with the sound perfectly. Like it looked like, it just looked like it worked. It looked like a natural thing because the sound effect was so perfect for the character movement.
Nice. Now, I read somewhere, and was it true that the Asteroids game actually had this where that was actually done in hardware? It's actually a looping thing that goes like an actual circuit in the game itself, not something that's played via software. Is that? I don't know why that came to mind, but
wow, I don't know about that. But I did go to a barcade when I was out in America, a bar with an arcade in, and we got $10 and we played video games on arcade machines for 2 hours for $10. And they had a Asteroids machine there, and it was just amazing to play it because it has the vector screen. Oh
that's
my God,
an amazing
so
game.
Beautiful. Yeah. So fluid. Yeah. It's just you don't get the you can't get the fluidity on camera. It's not the same. You have to just actually see it with your eyes. It's beautiful.
Well, listen, we're about halfway through the show or so, but we were thinking that we could go ahead and take a coffee break, and then afterwards we could maybe talk about maybe not how somebody would get into electronic music, but maybe some of the background that you might want to do, see what instruments you could kind of pick up. A little more about your journey. You've done some really interesting things, even tangential to music itself. Actually talk about you, because you used to do a podcast too, so maybe you can give us some tips on what we're doing wrong or perhaps even right. So, but that sounds good. We'll go ahead and take a break, and we'll be right back. Do you have the people up or not?
I don't think I can get to the people.
If you could tell us the URL, I'll read the names.
Yeah, I could do that. Well, everybody, welcome to the coffee break. I'm here with Jeremy Cook. Jeremy, I finished my coffee. This was a latte when we started.
I still have some coffee, but if I pour it out, then I might actually pour it on my keyboard or something. So, you'll just have to trust me on that. Cold coffee from Costco, as I mentioned. It's I think they're it's got some cat on it or something. Anyway, coffee break, as we do each week. We're going to call out our top 5 Patreons. Carl is on top. We think alphabetically, but that's not actually true, because Brian Moses is also one of our top 5 Patreons, and he should be ahead of him, but he's not. I don't really even know why. Michael Sizer, we'll call you out too. Raptor, creatively spelled. Stuart Morrow, and Positive Waves. I think that's 5 or so. A handful if you have an extra pinky.
Someone might have that.
Or it might be called a different type of appendage. I mean, if you have an extra finger.
Digit. Those are digits, Jeremy.
Digit. Is it still a pinky? Or could you name it something? I mean,
one of them goes to the market and one of them stays home.
Yeah, and the other one goes wee, 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 wee. All the way home.
He really does. That's the small one. That's the pinky.
If you did want to become one of our top 5 or so Patreons, where would you go, Pat?
You would go. I have the window open over here, Jeremy, so I don't say it wrong. You would go
Okay.
to patreon.com/createinvent, all one word.
Patreon.com/createinvent.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
That is correct.
Okay, very
That
good.
is absolutely correct. I'm staring at it right now to make sure I don't say it wrong.
Good. I was not staring. I just did that. I just freestyled that whole thing, Pat.
Wow.
Unbelievable. But I did mess up something because look, my fan's on. I turned it back on.
That's going to be a continuity error in the middle. If you think Jeremy should fix that fan that's shaking around, if you think he should balance that, you should leave a comment and let him know, because that's making me nervous a little bit.
You should also leave a comment telling me how to do this, because I don't really know how. I guess I should, since I have a mechanical engineering degree, but you know, I didn't really pay attention on fan balancing day.
If you know how to do it, leave a comment and I'll invite you over and you can take care of that for me, and I'll make you a coffee or something.
Yeah, but the fan's in my house though, Pat.
I have a fan too that's not as bad as yours, that needs
Okay.
balancing.
So basically, you can support us on Patreon, or you can come over and fix our fans.
Yes.
And we'll get you back to your show.